Hey there, synth explorers, welcome back to Akubi Music. Today we're going to be looking at how to utilize micromodulations in your synth patches to make them go from this to this. Let's go check it out. Okay, so I've got my Wavetable patch here, which is just a simple, standard Wavetable patch, which I've just put together, just a kind of simple pad using the basic shapes, nothing special going on here. So now we're going to start weaving in some of these micromodulations into this patch. So let's start off by looking at the amp envelope. So that's obviously the way that we shape the volume of the synth sound rather than the filter. So one of the few things that I like to do is have a really slow LFO, and then you can set that to move things gradually over time. And also we want to make sure that we're turning off the re-triggering because we want it just to continually flow. So we want it to be ever evolving and moving at its own rate, so it's not being re-sunk every time. So that gives it a bit more organic movement as well. So let's make some changes to this just to give a bit of a variation here. So let's look at the decay. Let's give that a little bit of, we're literally talking one to two, maybe more points of modulation on these, just to give it a bit of variation. And then sustain, we'll do that down a little bit as well. I like to also do negative and positive so that we've got them moving in different directions all the time. And then a little bit on the release as well. So that will make a huge amount of difference, but when we add it to everything else, then it'll begin to make more sense. So a couple of other things that I like to do here as well. So we've got a random modulator here, which could be done using a random LFO that is re-triggering. We're just going to use the random modulation source from Ableton's Wavetable. So we're just going to put that in here as well. Just give that a bit more variation too, so that we're mixing it up. And then finally, we're also going to use the key. So the key is essentially, if you've used key tracking before on a synthesizer, it essentially spreads across the keyboard. So middle C is kind of no change, and then as you move further up, it'll be slightly more. And when you go further down the octaves, it'll go further down. But we're just going to add a tiny bit of that here as well. Cool, so we've got a little bit of variation there. Let's move on to the envelope. So there's a similar thing here. We're going to look at using the random and the envelope, which currently isn't modulating the frequency, so we'll do that as well. Let's do this. So I'm going to do that, and we're also going to do the same with the LFO here as well. Would be a little bit more. Cool. All right. So that's the first couple of steps. So now we're going to start thinking about the wavetables and also the frequency filter as well. So we're going to use this slow moving LFO again. You'll notice that I'm using only one LFO so far, and we're already seeing a bit of variation, but this is where it's going to start coming to life really. So let's go down to the wave position and give that a bit of variation with the LFO. And then also we're going to put it on the frequency as well. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of the random on the frequency, so that moves around whenever we do a trigger on some keys, that will change. And I'm also going to put a bit of the key tracking as well on there. Cool. So it's already sounding a little bit more interesting than it was. Now we're going to use LFO2 to make a bit more movement within this patch. So yeah, let's add this in, and I'm going to make it to be an upward ramp. And let's put that on the frequency of the filter. So that's LFO2. Let's give that a bit of that. And also let's synchronize that. Nice, that's giving it a bit more movement now. And I've got that to be re-triggered this time, so that whenever we play a new chord or a new note, it'll re-trigger. But one thing you can also do is modulate the shape of your LFO with itself. So that gives it another bit of texture, which is slightly unusual. So you can morphing the shape of the LFO while you're using it. was just tweaking the second envelope, which is moving the filter cutoff just to make that a bit more interesting there. So then there's all sorts of other things that we can do as well. So I'm going to put on the unison mode, and I'm going to also modulate the amount of that, and a bit of this random. Can make that, use the slow moving LFO as well. And I'm also going to do some modulation on the second oscillator's position as well, just to give that a bit more variation as well. So we can put in a bit of this random into that. It's just moving every time, just slightly off, just so that we're getting a bit of variation. And then the other thing which I like to do is slightly detune it as well. So just by the smallest amount, 0.1 even. This is just the basic shapes, just your sine wave through to the square wave being modulated. No effects on it. And obviously if you want to step it up again, then we can change some of the shapes as well. So you can always use this as a starting point, and then you can mix in some more complicated shapes. So let's have a look at that. Let's add some effects on just to finish it off.